This is a 2023 BMW X1 xDrive28i, the third generation little crossover from Munich that's been in the US since the 2013 model year. This specific X1 is painted in Utah Orange Metallic, which is also new for 2023 and $650 extra. This specific X1 is also an X-Line X1, which is kind of a trim, kind of not. BMW calls it a look, and it is one of three looks that are available: Standard, X-Line, and M Sport. X-Line costs an additional $500 compared to the base look, and M Sport costs $2,300 over the base. But that look also includes things like adaptive shock absorbers, which obviously plays a big role in how a car handles. So it's clearly not just looks. So in that sense, I guess you can say that this is the middle of three trims, but my test car did include a lot of options, including a $4,200 premium package. So it's also not right to think of it as the mid-grade X1, because there are really just a lot of different ways that these things can be built out. My name is Robin Warner, by the way, an experienced engineer and magazine editor, and my new look for 2023 is called Unkempt. I review all kinds of cars, from a $25,000 Ford Maverick to a $425,000 Rolls-Royce Cullinan. I'll happily jump into Honda Accords, BMW M3s, and Porsche 911 GT3s, and I have fun every time. Please subscribe and join me. The base price for a 2023 BMW X1 xDrive28i with the standard look is $40,095. Going X-Line does add $500 to the price and costs $40,595. And all those options on my test car that I mentioned before add up to a total cost of $47,295. Okay, with all that, I think now is a good time to pull over to show you around and inside this car in a bit more detail. It's actually bigger than it looks. While this is not a big departure from the styling of the second generation BMW X1, the third generation you see here is actually bigger in every dimension. And there's some new technology inside as well. Let's take a closer look. Just like every new BMW we've seen, the kidney grille in the X1 is bigger than before, but also bolder and more squared off as well. And of all the different stylings we've seen, I feel that this one fits the styling of the rest of the car. You can also see inside it has active grille shutters in between the vertical slots here to help improve aerodynamics. BMW claims a coefficient of drag of 0.27, which is pretty good for an SUV. And it's got this nice polished metal perimeter around it. BMW calls that pearl effect chrome. And if we look down low, we have more polished metal for this lower lip spoiler right here, as well as the base of this little air curtain vent right here, as well as an intake for an intercooler right here. I do quite like this headlight pattern right here. It's a lot bigger than it at first looks. Stretches from here to here. These are, of course, LEDs. And to cap it off, we do have this nice tasteful size roundel right on the hood here. And I think we should take a quick look under the hood. Here is your transversely mounted turbocharged 2-liter BMW engine right there. So it goes this way across the side of the car. It is an inherently front-wheel drive based vehicle, but xDrive does mean, yes, it is all-wheel drive. Considering that it is a transversely mounted engine, it is fairly well tucked back. The center of the engine is around the center of the front axle, so weight distribution isn't too bad. You do also have this nice big air box that comes through here, and one thing I do appreciate is a nice solid structure under the front of this car. So we have this nice strut tower brace right here, but we also have bracing here that kind of comes around and almost cradles the top part of the engine bay here. So there is a lot of structure to add stiffness to the front of this car. That's a good sign. Looking at the car in profile, you get a better sense of its general shape. It does have the traditional two-box SUV look, but it is under 180 inches long, despite being bigger. I'll go ahead and put the specs up on the screen so you can check that out. I'll add the differences in size there as well compared to the second generation, so you get a sense of how this car has grown. And I'll let you know that I have a lot more information in the description. I do quite like this Utah orange paint that BMW calls it, and these interesting finishes on the side view mirror covers, the window trim right here, the roof rails above that, and then on the rocker panels down low here with the black just above that. It's just a real interesting combination of color. You also have a lot of different curves you're working with here. We have this character line that kind of extends from the fender flare, goes across above the door handles all the way right to the back of the taillights. But then you also have this crease in the door down here, and it kind of angles in, tucks in to where we meet that black. So it's all very interesting. There is a lot going on. It'll keep your eye busy, certainly. And overall, I would call it intriguing. You're looking at a $600 optional Y-spoke 19-inch wheel offered on the BMW X1. And keen eyes will notice, here's the exit for that air curtain that I showed you in front to blast over this wheel well and help reduce coefficient of drag. Now, 18-inch wheels are standard on the X1, but if you really want to limit the amount of tire you see, you can go up to 20-inch wheels on the X1. I think 19s is a good compromise, and frankly, this is about as little sidewall as I want in an SUV. Looking at the car from the back, you get this roof-mounted spoiler with a brake light right here, rear windshield, another nice roundel, but then you do get into different colors with the very dark here and that more machine polish finish down low. This is now standard fare for 2023, at least for right now, xDrive28i, but critically, we do have dual exhaust tips. They are down low and there is nothing fake about them. They are underneath all this, right there and right there, just as they should be. Love that part. This is your key fob, and here are the buttons on the side of it. And as you can see, we do have a power lift gate as standard. And opening it reveals 26 cubic feet of storage. Not bad at all. Underneath that is a little bit more space and your spare tire and jack. You do also have this little netted off space right here, partition space on this side, and a little cubby right here. And above that cubby is a 12-volt charge port right there. And of course, there may be times when you need more than 26 cubic feet of space. Easy enough to do. And with a few pulls of rope levers down in the second row, we now have 57 cubic feet of storage and room for two. And I also think room for my bike, but let's find out. This isn't a very long vehicle, so you actually don't have that much room to spare, but it's wide enough. You can do it with a little bit of effort, and yeah, fits the bike just fine. Like I said, this is under 180 inches long, not a very big SUV, but the seat bottoms are actually pretty high, and you do have adjustable seat back angle here. These were the straps you used to fold the seats down. You can also pull them forward slightly and adjust the seat back angle like that. They go all the way to here. I don't think you want to sit like that, but now you know. Also, the headrest with a push of a button, fold back to give you more of a view out of the rear windshield. But since I'm sitting back here, I am 5'11" or 181 centimeters tall, and because of this kind of like cut into the back of the seat here, I do still have a good 2 inches of knee room, and that's with this empty, of course. And just as I thought, the seat bottoms are nice and high, so it is actually pretty darn comfortable for thigh support, better than most compact SUVs out there. And despite having a panoramic moonroof, I do still have about 1 inch of headroom, pretty darn good. As you can see, with the nice height seat bottoms, I do have less than a 90-degree bend in my knees, and I also have USB Type-C ports to use right there, and a little tray beneath that. It would be tight to have 3 people back here, but if there's only 2 back here or fewer, you do get an armrest and cup holders. How about that? The interior, by the way, is called mocha colored, and the material, the upholstery on that interior, is called Sensatec. Sensatec is part of BMW X1, but the seats are a $400 optional extra. These are sport seats, and you can tell with this nice lower bolstering right here and these mega deep upper bolsters right here, this definitely looks like a nice sport seat. You even have good shoulder cushion here, and you do have adjustable thigh support here as well, so you can extend that if you wish. Other than that, the seats are powered, the controls are down there, and there's no separate lumbar support, but the seats, having as much support as they do built in, are quite comfortable. Looking at the door, you can get a better sense of this Molka, the darker trim above that, and some nice stitch work in between. You have a little bit more of that chrome polished metal finish there. Interesting style for the door handles as well, and a nice upgraded stereo here. You do have 2-position seat memory, and your liftgate control is down here. Adjusting the steering wheel, both tilt and telescope, is done manually right there, and you do have a couple of controls to the left of the steering wheel right there. The first thing you'll notice when you step inside the X1 is this big curved display right here, the BMW curved display. This is standard equipment on the X1. It comprises of a 10.25 inch, 10.25 inch instrument cluster screen right there, and right alongside it, a 10.7 inch center console touchscreen. Because we have the premium package, we have a head-up display right there. Also, because we have the premium package, we have a lot of other stuff. The premium package is $4,200, and in it includes the Live Cockpit Pro package, which the head-up display is part of that, and a whole bunch of other stuff. The list is up there right there for you to see. It includes a lot. But let's knock out a little bit more standard equipment here. Standard equipment, dual zone climate control. Standard equipment, wireless, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Not standard equipment, but part of that premium package and highly appreciated, is this wireless smartphone charger right there. Plus, it's a neat little pocket to put it in, and this does have some flexibility in it to help hold it in place a little bit. Beneath that, we do have a couple of cup holders. We have a couple of USB Type-C ports right there, and on the other side, we have a 12-volt power port right there, cigarette lighter style. But then we get to this like dual level center console. The lower center console is a big space for storage, really nicely packaged down there. Up here, this is your engine start stop, your Prindle, volume, my modes, which is how you get to different drive modes, and other things right here. So this is quite important as like a command center, because you have all this storage down here. This is just an armrest. This doesn't open on its own. Anyway, since we're down here, I'll go ahead and start the engine. Now, the Prindle is actually interesting because there's not a set way to put it in P. So it's a Rindle, kind of. Anyway, if you're in drive, you can hit this P, which is the parking brake P. That sets the parking brake and also puts it in park. Or, from drive, you can just shut the car off. That also puts it in park, but does not set the parking brake. So be aware of that. And here is your BMW curved display lit up. Your instrument cluster right here, of course. And then next to that, your center console touchscreen. Now, one thing I want to show you with this lit up, you do have a heated steering wheel and heated front seats for both front passengers. That is separate from all the packages. That is a $550 standalone option, but also appreciated. Looking up, you have the typical controls right here, including the privacy panel for your panoramic moonroof. Lovely. But we also have the BMW iDrive 8 system in this car. So the 8th generation of BMW iDrive, and that includes a whole bunch of new stuff, including, of course, the personal assistant. Hey, BMW, set the temperature to 72 degrees.
I'm setting 72 degrees Fahrenheit throughout.
Pretty cool, huh? But I mentioned it briefly a moment ago. We no longer have a drive mode button. We now have my modes. You get 3 drive modes. Personal, which is kind of like your standard drive mode. Sport, sportier driving. Efficient, more efficient driving. This does not have adjustable shock absorbers. So you're basically looking at powertrain and steering assistance adjustments. But, you know, it's something. Even without the adjustable shock absorbers, we'll definitely try sport driving mode out. Speaking of which, now is a great time to get back to the drive. All right, let's dig into the powertrain. While in the past, X1s have had two-wheel drive options, for the moment, there is only one powertrain available in the X1 xDrive28i. As I already showed you, under the hood lies a turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinder engine that makes 241 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. But it's not the peak numbers so much of this engine, but how long they last. Peak torque starts at a nice and low 1500 RPM and lasts to 4000 RPM, a nice 2500 RPM spread. But peak horsepower also starts at 4500 RPM and remains through 6500 RPM. So you have a 2000 RPM spread of peak horsepower, 241 horsepower. That's pretty rare and pretty exciting, because that means you get peak torque or peak horsepower for pretty much the entire rev range of the engine. By the way, this is called a twin power turbocharged engine. That is not two turbochargers, but a twin scroll single turbocharger attached to this 2-liter 4-cylinder. Nothing wrong with that, I just want to make sure that that point's clear. The only transmission available is a 7-speed dual clutch transmission, which is fine by me because it has nice fast shifts, which I will show you later. And as the xDrive name suggests, all-wheel drive is standard. That said, this does work as a front-wheel drive car unless it senses a loss of traction, and then power is sent to the rear axle to help distribute it. And generally speaking, I'm quite happy with this powertrain. The engine not only makes good numbers and has nice ranges of its peaks, but it operates smoothly and balanced and has a nice mellow tone that I find appealing, and it's also quiet when you're just cruising along. But when you hit the gas, you get a good kick down and healthy power. This is muscular, this thing. You can get yourself moving awfully quick with this 2-liter engine. It is robust and fuel efficient. You get 25 miles to the gallon in the city, 34 on the highway, 28 combined. Now this is an all-wheel drive SUV that gives you those numbers. It is a very small all-wheel drive SUV that gives those numbers, but those are pretty impressive figures all the same. Especially when you consider that this is a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. Usually you're looking at 8 speeds or above when you start hearing those figures. And while fuel economy is important, it's not nearly as much fun as accelerating. Of course I had to play around with this robust engine. Yes, I tested it. Let me show you right now. All right, everybody, time for an acceleration test. I do have the X1 in sport driving mode, and I have stability control off. See how it goes. Okay, coming to a complete stop. Bit of brake torque, about 2500 RPM, off the brake. There we go, nice fast shifts. Wow, good fast shifts, stout acceleration. Now, the launch was a little bit less than I expected, but you definitely got something out of it. We do have all-wheel drive, so I didn't expect any wheel spin. We didn't get any. And once we got off the line, it was just good, stout, consistent pull and very fast shifts from the 7-speed dual clutch transmission. BMW says 0 to 60 in 6.2 seconds. Yeah, I think that's pretty easy. Good acceleration, good motor. This is a BMW. It's a front-wheel drive based small BMW SUV, but it is still a BMW. So I needed to know how this car handles. I tested that as well. Let me show you that. All right, everybody, time for a handling test. I do once again have the X1 in sport driving mode with the stability control off. Let's see how it goes. Yep. Good pull from the engine, that's for sure. Okay, yep, not a lot of grip. I didn't expect a lot of grip with those all-season tires, and there's not a lot of grip. But we do get pretty good behavior from the body. The steering response is pretty good. The front end response is actually quite good, considering that this is a transversely mounted front wheel drive based car. We have good body control. The steering rack itself is fast, and the behavior is pretty good. So yeah, it's actually in a lot of ways better than I expected. I am curious to see how the M Sport is compared to this with the adjustable dampers and see how it's tuned comparatively, but the base chassis is tuned well, and even though it's not the sportiest setup, you can definitely still have some fun in this X1. Clearly, life isn't just fun and games. There's a lot of times you just have places to go, and you need to know, can you get there comfortably? Well, in a word, yes. First and foremost, I was quite pleasantly surprised with how much space the X1 provides, considering that it's less than 180 inches long. You saw a little while ago, there was actually a fair amount of comfort in the second row for adults. I was very happy to see that. And these sport seats in front, which are a $400 extra, I must admit, offer plenty of support. I find these seats incredibly comfortable, and I like the material, the Sensitech material. I find that to be a pleasant material as well. Of course, you also have this BMW curved display that's really easy to read and use and operate, and all the connectivity options as well. So yeah, this is a very pleasant place to spend time. And the ride handling compromise, I think, was done well here. As you saw, we don't have tons of grip here, but the tune of the shock absorbers and the springs and everything else was well done to provide good composure, not too much body roll, and yet plenty of compliance to go over bumps and heaves in the road without any trouble. So yeah, in a holistic sense, this really is a pleasant place to be. And that's true on roads like this or on the interstate. I tested it there as well. Let me show you that. All right, everybody, time for a quick test on the interstate. See how this thing feels. I do have it back in the personal drive mode, which means stability control is also back on. And we actually don't have as many of the driving aids as we usually do. BMW does offer a lot of driving aids, but they are not standard equipment necessarily. So I'll go ahead and put what we have on the screen so you can check that out, but it is less than usual. But anyway, let's see how this feels. Okay, cruise control is set to go with traffic right around 78 miles an hour. This is standard cruise control, not adaptive cruise control, so distance is going to be up to me. I am 100% okay with that, but it is getting pretty common for adaptive cruise control to be part of cars. So it's kind of telling that this isn't. Now, again, it is available. It's just not on this particular car. At interstate speeds, the engine is nice and quiet, humming along in the background, nice refined sound, feels balanced, feels smooth. Wind and road noise, on the other hand, is a little bit higher than you'd like a $40,000+ SUV to be. Even though this is a small one, we are getting a little bits of buffets and stuff around the windows. You can tell that the glass is not quite as thick and the padding and stuff, it's just not quite as complete as other premium compact SUVs are. But it's certainly not bad. I certainly wouldn't have any trouble having a road trip in this car. Just your ears might be buzzing after a while. Also, this BMW curved glass is really easy to read and look at and use. I really like that. All the BMW iDrive stuff works and operates just fine, and having all the ways to wirelessly connect your phone and charge it wirelessly at the same time and all that makes those kinds of things really easy. So yeah, overall this is a perfectly reasonable road trip car, and the fuel economy isn't bad either. So what do we have in this third generation BMW X1? We have really well done ergonomics. There is a lot of space in here to do a lot of different things, even though the footprint of this car is nice and small. I think that this is a really well done car to fit in relatively tight spaces in the city and yet give you a lot of options of things to take with you when you want to leave it. I also quite like the design and the flexibility of the space inside. To have this lower space and the lower center console is nice. To have a convenient place to put your smartphone, not to mention all the natural light that's let in because of the panoramic moonroof, and still having enough headroom for people in back. That's a great combination. This does step away from what BMWs truly are in a traditional sense. We are nowhere near the capability of a 3 Series here. Even the X3 offers more dynamic friendly behavior because it is ultimately a rear-wheel drive based setup, and this is not. So you are dealing with a lot of weight up front. It handles it well, but there are limitations. And I think it's a really interesting design. There's a lot going on. It's certainly not a simple, clean design, but it is an interesting one. And I think it's bold enough to stand out in a crowd, and that is kind of becoming rare these days. So with all that said, this is the car for a well-off, city-dwelling, younger person that really puts forward-thinking fashion at the front of his or her priority list. And when you get out on the road and the going gets a little curvy, you can have a little bit of fun there too. I'm Ryman Warner. Thank you for watching. And if you liked this video, I would really appreciate it if you showed me by hitting the thumbs up button. Doing so helps me out a lot. Also, if you're interested in a small, compact, fashion-forward kind of SUV, you should also definitely check out the Volvo XC40T5. It's similarly priced and a similar size and similar power too. And from there, I reviewed a whole bunch of stuff by now. Something's gonna pop up on the screen next to me. Hopefully it's something you're interested in, and if you watch it, I definitely hope you like it. Okay, goodbye for now.